Love Lessons, the show where healthy couples come to share their wisdom from the lessons they've learned in love. We discuss everything from money to parenting to social media, and don't leave out stress and sex. Go get your pen and paper because class is now in session. Come catch your blessings. Welcome to Love Lessons, hosted by Trey Kearney. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so super duper excited tonight, as I always am, because we have some very special instructors in the house tonight. We have Edwin and Debbie Martinez, who are here to instruct. They are here to teach. One, because they have 25 years under their belt, 25 years of marriage. So get your pen and paper because class is now in session. Welcome, Edwin and Debbie. How y'all doing?
Doing great. Thank you for having us.
Yes. No, thank you for being here. So I always love to start with first, we got to clap it up for anybody that got 25 years in the game because people ain't lasting 25 months. You know that. People giving up, they after 25 weeks, they like, you know what? I changed my mind. So I honor you guys for the commitment just to be together for 25 years. So my first question I always ask is, tell me a little bit about your background. Tell me about your blueprint. Tell me about your relationship with your mother and your father. And we'll start with ladies first.
So, I was raised in the Caribbean, or I was born in Jamaica and migrated to the States at the young age of 8. But I still have a lot of how we were raised instilled and embedded in me, which was a very strict background. My parents just celebrated their 50 years of being married in December, when we celebrated our 25th. I admired and loved my parents' relationship and prayed for a man that was similar to my dad. Be careful what you pray for because he's damn near his twin. Sorry, I mean that.
It's okay.
But I'm a daddy's girl. Growing up as a teenager, mom and I butt heads, but now we're the best of friends and we have a great relationship. I have 3 brothers, so I'm the only girl and always have been. Most of my cousins are boys. So I've just always been around the testosterone, so to speak. And I've been okay with it. I've always been okay with that. But I had a great relationship with my parents, and they're still doing well, and still, they make me laugh. They're comedians, and they were great role models for sure.
Well, Trey, I come from a broken household, so a little different than Debbie. So, I'm the oldest of 8 children right now. But my parents, when they were married, didn't really have a strong relationship. And unfortunately, when I was 13 years old, my parents, divorced. But I learned a lot through that. And I think that actually, part of some of the strength in my marriage are some of those lessons that I learned as a young boy. I saw things that my parents did to one another. And I vowed that when I did, find the right person and become married, I wasn't going to do these things. So I learned kind of the things not to do and the things that I didn't want to see or bring my children into. They were lessons. My parents loved the children. They loved me and my sister. There was only 2 of us before my parents before they were divorced, and then they both went on their separate ways and had other children. But nonetheless, they loved us. They loved us how they knew to love us. But the marriage between my mother and my father was not a healthy one. And again, I saw things that, maybe kids shouldn't see. And luckily for me, it's not something that I brought into my marriage. And again, the things that I brought into my marriage were things that I vowed that I wouldn't do, kind of seeing the way that my parents treated one another. So that's kind of my backstory. So pretty proud of my 25 years and the successes that we've seen.
We got to clap for you because you know what? It's hard coming from a broken home. I come from a broken home as well. And my marriage didn't last based on my behaviors, right? I took those behaviors with me. And I love that you said, I vowed not to do the bad things that I saw, because we either vow not to do it or we become it.
That's right.
Right. And somehow I became it, but we grow, we learn, and my next husband gonna get the best parts of me because now I know what
Amen.
not to do. So a lot of people say, how are you a relationship coach? I said, hey, I could teach you how to have a successful marriage by how miserably I failed. I can tell you what not to do.
That's
keep
right.
your
That's right.
husband.
Some of the best lessons come from the school of hard knocks.
Woo, you better say that, Edwin. You better say that. So the next question, speaking of divorce, should divorce ever be an option? Do you guys have deal breakers or non-negotiables?
Adultery.
Yeah, that I think that's really it for me. I mean, I trust my wife with my life and my children's life. So, I never see that coming down the road. And again, it's one of the things that I saw in through my parents, and I vowed never to do. So I commit myself to my wife. But God forbid, that happens in our marriage. That could potentially be a deal breaker for me.
Same.
Okay, so that that's not a deal breaker for everybody, and we
trust is huge for me. And committing adultery, you have broken the trust. And I just, something that we've worked on. We've been married 25 years, but we dated for 5, so really it's 30. Ooh. And yes.
Yeah.
So in those 30 years, we've established something that's so strong that just one stupid act could tear that down. Trust takes years to build and seconds to destroy. So it's just not worth it. It's so funny. I had a team lunch today with my teammates as their manager and just going over some numbers or whatever. And when the meeting was done, I picked him up, and then because he had a separate meeting with his team, and on the way home, he was like, so how was the meeting? I was like, it was fine. He was like, what? I said, well, 20 minutes, 30 minutes of it was spent talking about you. He goes, what do you mean? Because we were just sitting there talking about how wonderful he is and blah, blah, blah. And at the end of it all, I was like, I love him more today than I did 30 years ago. And how is that even possible? Because I remember dating, and I remember saying our vows, and I remember feeling how in love I've been in love with this man. Let me pause and rewind. I've been in love with him since I was 14 years old.
Aww.
I've been since I was 14. And the love that I felt for him then, I just thought that was it. It doesn't get any better than this. That's not true. I love him more today than I did 30 years ago.
Oh my goodness, Lord, where's my Boaz? Where is he, Jesus? I want mine.
Just a little interesting note there. Obviously, you guys may have deciphered there that we all actually work together as well.
Right.
So we're both managers at the same company. So that's why she's talking about teams.
Wow.
So we get to live together and work together.
And people
most
ask,
days.
how do you do it? We do. I love it. When we're not with each other, we're just not I don't know. And I didn't realize this until about a year ago, honestly. And this is hilarious. One day, so some days we work from home, and 2 days we're at the office. And one day I was home and something happened, and my youngest said, where's your husband? And I was like, I don't know. I snapped at him or something. And he was like, I need him to come home, because when he is not in the house, friend, you are so miserable. And I had to grab my pearls and whatnot. And it never dawned on me that, yes, I'm snappy when we're apart for, and I'm not even talking about days, I'm talking about hours. I just knowing that he's in the house, even if I'm upstairs and he's downstairs, it's just, I don't know. I don't get tired of being around him. Our offices are literally about 4 doors down, and I wish it were next to each other. I don't know, it may sound crazy to some folks, but when you're in love, like, this is my best friend. I don't want to do anything without him. The other day I had some friends who were like, we should go on a girls trip. And I said, why? You can't be my cuddle buddy.
Wait, listen, I just want women to hear that it's okay to love your man, that it's okay to want to be around him all the time, right? I just want women to understand that. I know girl trips and all these different things, but it is a wonderful feeling to say, I'm good on that. We can go on a girls' lunch. but I'm gonna go home and sleep with my husband. I'm gonna go home and sleep with my husband tonight. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but y'all not about to mess up my good thing. So I love to hear somebody profess their love and not be like, oh, she's sprung or whatever. No, that's what we all want, Debbie. That's what we all want. We could pretend like, because we don't want to get hurt, but we all want a man that we want to be around all the time. And I see it in his face when you were talking that he loved to be around you too, because the adornment in his eyes for you just now. I'm like, God, I'm gonna pray tonight. Right? And
we will pray for that for you.
Please do.
We'll be in agreement.
We'll agree with you.
That's right.
Yes. Thank you.
It's funny. I mean, we could tell you stories where I remember one time, even like going to a baby shower. Okay, it's a baby shower and it's just going to be women. He's not going. And literally the shower is about 40 minutes from the house. So 40 minutes to get there. Well, maybe not that long, maybe 30 minutes to get there. Plan to be there for 2 hours and then come back home. He said, what did you say you were going to do? You said you were going to do something. So I'm like, okay, he's going to do whatever. I'll go to the shower, leave, and then go grocery shopping, honey. I get a text. Where are you? I thought the shower. And it's not that you need to be home. That's not it. It's, I just want to be with you. And I was like,
ain't nothing wrong with that.
No, we just hate being apart. Hate it. 2-3 hours max.
I love this because I want to be around my man all the time when I get him. I just know I don't want around him all the time. And now I know ain't nothing wrong with that. Different strokes for different folks. And if you're trying to run away from your husband and go on, ladies, no offense to girl trips, but if you're trying to run away from your husband to go on a girl trip, I don't want your life.
You know what, Trey, in my 30s, that would have been fun. And I would have been down with that and okay with that. But now I'm a grown woman. I don't want to lay in bed and sleep with anybody but my man. I don't care if it's for a day. If he can't go, I'm not going. Like, I don't need to go. And half of the time when I am invited, these people are either single or they're not thriving or happy in their relationship. That's not the environment I want to be around, because now I feel like I have to dim my light on my relationship because it's not necessarily on point with, and I'm not doing that. I'm not dimming my light in any aspects, in any areas of my life for anybody. So that's why 99% of the time it's just us.
You better say that. Listen, don't be hanging around them people that's got them bad relationships. I'm trying to be around, I love to talk to couples who are in healthy marriage. That's why I want to do this show, because I'm trying to learn from somebody that's successful, not just surviving in a marriage or just there because, to say I'm here, we've been married for 5 years or we've been married for 25 years. I want to be around people who are genuinely thriving in their relationship to say, I'm going to be married until death do us part because I want to be, not because I have to put on airs for anybody. So let's talk about submission. So people get crazy when they hear that word, submission. So what's your take on submission?
I'll let you answer that one. I'll chime in.
It's so funny because people automatically assume you don't have to be around me long to decipher that I have a very strong and upfront personality. And he's a little bit more reserved. So Debbie must wear the pants, or Debbie this. Quite the contrary. I don't want to wear the pants. Quite frankly, I look a lot hotter and sexier in skirts and dresses. I let my man wear the pants. I know what the Bible says. I let him lead. I want to be led. It makes me feel safe and secure. So the interpretation is not, it should not be taken as something demeaning or degrading. That's not what it means. For me, it's more, my adornment for him, how much I love him, how much I respect him. And quite frankly, if I because of my personality, I don't think I could be with someone that I could just run all over, which I cannot with him, or would I want to be, right? I don't want to be able to control. If I can control you, it's not going to work. That doesn't work for me.
And I think that, part of it is when a lot of people maybe mention or talk about submission, they think about someone, putting their thumb down on somebody, you know, holding them back and holding them down. You know, I know Debbie's personality. I've known her since she was a teenager. And obviously we're a bit more mature now. You know, I don't want to take away from Debbie's light or the way that she is. However, you know, I'm responsible as the man of the house to keep my wife, to make sure that she's well, to make sure that she's healthy, to make sure that she's happy. So that carries a lot of weight. So a lot of that is, there's a lot of weight on my shoulder as the husband, as the man of the house, as the father to my children, and I am responsible for them, right? So my duty is to care for them and to love them. And again, I hold myself to that responsibility, and I take it very, very serious. So again, I love my wife, and she knows that I love her so much, more than anything else on earth. And I'm going to do everything to protect her and make her aware and remind her regularly that I do love her. And part of that is making sure that I make good decisions for us as a couple and our family.
Wow. Listen, it's not hard to submit. Submission comes naturally when your man said, I'm handling my business. Like, you don't have to worry about nothing in this house. When a woman is not naturally submitting, the leadership is not good. When a man is not naturally submitting, the woman that he's with is not the right woman. I always say that submission is natural when you're just with the right person. Right. So let's talk about money. So everybody say women feel like what's his is mine, what's mine is mine, and that's it.
We joke and I say that all the time, but it's the farthest thing from the truth. I say it strictly for entertainment purposes, but it's the farthest thing from the truth.
Yeah. So
how have you guys dealt with money?
Yeah. So, so from the very beginning of our relationship or our marriage, we've always had joint accounts. So, our money goes into our account. Of course, we know what our responsibilities are, right? We've got to keep a roof over the head. We've got to keep ourselves and the children fed. And other responsibilities go along with that, saving for retirement, things of that nature. So what's ours is ours. I say we don't have individual accounts, but I just opened an individual account the day before yesterday, but it's just for a purpose. But we don't hide our income from one another. Again, we don't split up our bills, where I hear a lot of couples talk about he takes care of the mortgage or rent and I take care of the cable bill, back and forth. No, all of our money goes into one account and we pay our bills and take care of ourselves through our accounts.
I never understood that.
Me either.
But different strokes for different folks, I guess. I have some friends who are into a second marriage and maybe finances were an issue in the first marriage. So in that instance, I get it, wanting to have things separate. But at some point, and I know people that right off the bat, right out of the gate of being married, everything is separated. And I'm like, why? Once you say I do, it becomes us. And I think that includes everything. That should be all inclusive, not some things. You don't get to choose what is mine and what is his and what is ours, at least not in my mind. When we said I do, that became us. And that meant all aspects and all areas of our lives, period, including money.
Yeah, I think that, I'll just add one thing or a couple of things here. Number one, I think we do have our own individual credit cards, but, come each pay period, so we get paid twice a month. So come each pay period, we're talking about, hey, I owe this much on my credit card. I'm going to go ahead and pay it off, just making you aware that I'm sending X number of dollars to this credit card, right? The challenge that I have from time to time with having joint accounts is sometimes if I'm going to buy her a gift, right? How do I hide it? She sees everything,
right?
So that's really the biggest challenge. Is if I'm trying to do something that I don't want her to know about.
That's it.
So planning trips and things of that nature where you want it to be a surprise.
That's where the credit card
again,
comes
you gotta be a little, you gotta hide some of those things temporarily.
Oh, I know that's right. Well, that was good stuff for somebody that was listening. That was good. That's a good struggle that I have to, you don't see the swipe on the card or the money come out the account. How am I do this?
Right.
Trying to surprise you. Oh, that was good. I love that. So,
and I have one other thing is, and especially for younger people, maybe just starting off in life, is you want to find somebody who does manage their money well, has good credit. So we even know each other's credit score. Okay. So, so if I need to go buy a car or buy her a car or whatever, it better be a low interest rate, right? I want the best deal wherever I'm going and for whatever I'm doing.
Oh, I love this. They compete and they have the best credit score. That's what I'm talking about. Listen, I'm taking notes right now. I'm really taking notes.
Know your partner's business.
Right.
Come on now. So since you went there, this is one of my questions. Let's talk about privacy, right? Mm-hmm. Like people have a problem with social media. People have a problem with their phone being locked, their computer. Nobody don't know the password. This person. Talk a little bit about privacy in your home, because I believe there's a difference between privacy and secrecy. So y'all talk about privacy between you guys in your marriage.
So this is Debbie's cell phone. I can unlock it with my face, okay?
Oh.
And I can get in there. So whatever I want to get into, and the same thing here. So she can get into my cell phone. She can look through my text messages, through my Instagram or anything else. Now, I never do that. I don't ever audit her, and I don't ever want to audit her. And because again, I completely trust Debbie. I mean, completely. I don't care if she were out and about, on a girl's trip. Somehow if that happened, that she wanted to do that, I honestly would not be checking on her. I'm not jealous. Debbie hates that about me sometimes, or actually used to hate that more in the past, because I don't get jealous.
Annoying.
In my opinion, Debbie is beautiful. And if guys didn't look at her, I would think there's a problem with that guy, so I don't get jealous. So, sometimes when we're out and about or at the grocery store or wherever, and someone looks at Debbie, boy, you just made that guy's day. She hears that all the time from me. I don't get jealous at all. So, and again, I just trust her. And again, privacy, I don't know that there's anything that we need to, keep from one another. Again, 30 years of a relationship.
Nothing.
Just for us, I don't see why we would need to hide anything.
Again, the privacy is when we're trying to plan something for each other. Then we might get a little, okay.
I've gotten away with a few though.
I love this.
It's some good stuff. But I'm in total agreement. The minute I feel there's a need for me to check his phone, that's a problem. That's a problem.
Can you say that again? Can you say that one more time?
The minute I feel the need that I need to check his whereabouts, check his phone, where he's located. Is he where he is when he says he's going to be there? If I, and as a woman, my discernment, intuition is sharper than a double-edged sword. And I go by that. And until that is checked, then I don't need to check anything that he's doing. If he tells me he's going to place A, then that's where he'll be. And to be quite honest, we both, because of our jobs, if we wanted to do anything, we could. We really could, because of how much we travel and who we're seeing every day. I mean, we meet with strangers and clients every day almost. I could tell he doesn't know anything about any of the clients that I'm meeting with. Lucky for him, they're all 75 years. No, I'm just kidding. There's privacy for what? The only privacy comes in is when he has to go to the bathroom.
Yeah. I love it.
I go to bed with the door open, whatever.
I love it. And I said this to all, like people ask me often, because from my line of work, they call me a relationship expert. That's what Cosmopolitan said. They quoted the relationship expert Trey Kearney. I didn't call myself that. They called me that. But you know, a lot of my clients will say, "When is the relationship over?" And you said something so pivotal just now and so on point. I tell them, relationships take work. The relationship is over when your relationship becomes a job and you have to be the FBI, the CIA. You're looking at the floorboards and through pockets and wallets and cell phones. That is when your relationship is over because there is no trust. Relationships take work, but they are not your job to follow your spouse around, go through their pockets. When it becomes your job and you can't focus on anything else, you have a serious problem. So I'm so glad that you said that. Edwin, you wanted to say something? Go ahead.
Oh, no, you hit it right on the nose.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Again, and Debbie's intuition, I know that if I was ever trying to hide something from Debbie, she would just know. Okay. I mean, her intuition is amazing. I wish I had a little bit of what she has.
So let's talk about fair fighting, because we don't get along all the time. So there are times when we get aggravated or something happens and we have a misunderstanding or a disagreement. How do you guys fair fight and how do you deal with anger?
Okay. So we never use foul language at one another.
Ever.
Ever.
Never.
So we never curse at one another. Obviously we don't get physical. That's never going to happen. Obviously, we do have our disagreements and arguments, from time to time, and thankfully enough, not often. And
they're usually short-lived.
And they're usually my fault, so I understand that. I just have to apologize as best I can, because I'm usually the one at fault. But nonetheless, again, to be fair, I just need to, and we need to make sure we're communicating at the right time, because sometimes when you're really upset, sometimes you need a little bit of time to be in separate rooms, maybe in different parts of the house, to just get your thoughts together, to cool things down. And then, after a little while, someone goes to the other person and let's have a conversation about this. And we discuss however we were wronged, if we were wronged, or whatever the disagreement is. Because again, in the moment I can't really think of any arguments right now, but
that's awesome.
If something does happen and both people are kind of at that level 10, it's not a good time to chat, right? You might say something that if you were at a level 7 or a level 5 on the heat scale, you would think twice about saying it.
And if I could just add on that, 30 years, listen, oh my God, I could really talk about this stuff for hours. I really love and enjoy what we've built together and how we've done that, and would love to see more people, not identical to us, but just have successful relationships, because it's needed. We need to be examples to our children, to our friends, etc. But anyway, on the being upset, I've gotten better at he's right. At a 10, don't talk to me. Let me get down to a 5, because at a 10, I might say something. Once you say something, there's no taking it back. Okay. And words are very powerful, and I can cut with my words. I really can, and I have in the past, and regretfully. So I've gotten better at just going from it. And we don't get to 10 often. That does not after 30 years, like, what are we getting to a 10 about, Fran? Like,
right.
Yes. We get to a 7 and then it quickly de-escalates, and then it's short-lived. Like, it's too much energy. So what I will add to this, if I can, I wrote a book several years ago called Loving Through Thick and Thin, Essentials for a Healthy, Thriving, and Sex-Filled Relationship. And when people ask, so what is the secret? There's no secret to a successful marriage. I don't think there's nothing secret. And if you talk to people who have been married for this duration or even longer, and you just dig a little bit, probe with the right questions, you'll see that they all say the same thing. If there's no communication, trust, and respect, you're done. You're done. Done. The relationship is not going to work. Respect, like he said, we've never called each other out of our names. He's never in 30 years called me any name other than Debbie or Queen. Even when he's mad at me, he'll say, Queen, can we talk? Queen B, can we talk? The communication was our struggle, right? And I think most women will agree. Men are not as great as a communicator. I don't think the majority of the time as women are. I am very expressive. If I'm happy, you're going to know that I'm happy with my words. If I'm upset, you're going to know that I'm upset with my words. I know how to communicate and use my words and convey that. Whereas men, not so much. Now, that's something he's gotten better at working at, and has just gotten better at it because he's made an attempt to work at it. And that's the other thing. We've got to be in agreement that if something is broken and your partner doesn't like it, you've got to be willing to want to work on that to fix it. Okay. If you're not, then how are you a partnership? You're not. It's not all about you. Like you mentioned earlier, this is work. This takes work. We didn't just wake up and here we are. We work at having a loving and thriving relationship. So communication is important. And we already addressed trust and definitely respect. So without those three, your relationship is doomed. I don't care what anybody says.
Woo-wee! If you just tuned in, you tuned into Love Lessons. Our instructors are in the building and they are killing it. Edwin and Debbie Martinez are here to school you tonight. They not only have the experience, but they are in a thriving 25-year marriage. And again, they just said, we do have disagreements, but we've learned to agree to disagree and to get down to a certain level before we say anything. Sometimes you got to just walk away. And a lot of times people just have to get their point across. It's better to be, to have a little space than to be right. Because again, if you were here from the beginning, you know that Edwin came from a broken family, maybe not broken, just that his parents got a divorce. And Debbie came from a marriage where her parents are still married after 50 years. And we all have come from different lenses, right? So we have to have grace and mercy with each other because Edwin has seen some things that Debbie hasn't necessarily seen. So he had to grow into that because she's seen a different relationship pattern in her family. So I just appreciate y'all sharing so much. This is so good and our time is running. So I'm going to get the questions I want out. So opposite sex friends of the opposite sex. Would you be comfortable, and I put this question out a few weeks ago, would you be comfortable with your husband getting advice from another woman or your wife getting advice from another man? People be doing this stuff. So I want to know about you guys and opposite sex friends.
Yeah, obviously we have coworkers that sometimes we develop different relationships with from a work environment. However, I don't see any reason why I should ever have a female friend, right, outside of my relationship with my wife. Women aren't going to know the feelings and how a man thinks. So if I'm going to have a relationship or need some sort of advice, if it's outside of my immediate family,
it's called the Lord.
It's gonna right. It's right. We go to prayer. But, sometimes we need to talk to other people, but I'm going to pick up the phone maybe, or go down to a friend's house who is of the same sex. And if I'm going to go out to have any, activities outside of my house without my wife, it's not going to be with another woman. It's going to be with another man or a group of men, and we're doing our thing, if you will. And again, although I trust my wife 100%, and I know that she trusts me, I don't ever want to put myself in a situation where, my wife would doubt anything that's happening. Or, God forbid, I start having feelings for another woman because she hears me and understands me or whatever you might think. So I would never want to put myself in that type of position.
I was just going to say, so just like a crack in a foundation, that's what it is, a crack. So anything can get in that crack. You start sharing how maybe unhappy you are or displeased you are with a spouse, and it means nothing to you, right? You just feel like you need to vent, and you share that with the opposite sex. Well, if the opposite sex is single, or maybe he's not happy in his relationship or her relationship, that might be an open door. And again, unintentionally, but that's what it's small things like that that the enemy will use to attack what you currently have. So why put yourself in that position? The enemy doesn't need my help.
Listen here, y'all are killing it tonight, because I mean, and this is for people to understand that there is no cookie cutter relationships. Everybody's relationship is not going to be the same. Some people have opposite sex friends and both of them are cool with it, but you have to know who you are and what your partner needs. You have to know what your spouse is comfortable with, because some people don't understand that affairs start way before the bedroom.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
And we must be aware of that you are forming a relationship with somebody when you are having intimate conversations with them. And those are the conversations you only should be having with your spouse. And so many people are like, oh, I could talk to somebody. You really have to understand you're forming a bond with somebody when you're sharing things with them that is only for your spouse. You want to say something, Debbie and Edwin? Go ahead.
That's it. You hit the nail on the head. Like I said, initially it may seem harmless. Right? There's no harm in this. I'm just so bummed and I need to vent. I need to vent to another girl, honey, not another dude. I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah, and it could be the smallest thing, so obviously, early on, as Debbie was mentioning earlier, men typically don't communicate as well, typically, right? Not all men. So there's some great men communicators out there. I was not one of them, and I'm still not a great communicator myself today. But what if Debbie found a friend who is male and he communicated well, right? It would open up that window, open up that crack, that all of a sudden she could start creating this bond that in her heart and in her mind could grow to something greater. And then she could miss out on my 90% who's perfect for this guy who's only 10% perfect.
That's right, baby.
Right? So,
Whoa, come on now. She said, come on, baby. I know that's right. Yes. I love this. Y'all are just the truth right now. So I'm going to ask this question for Debbie. What do women need?
To feel safe. I want to feel safe, and I am safe, and not just physically, right? So we spoke about earlier about submission and how he cares for his family. I just want to feel safe. I want to feel protected when we walk. As an example, he may be a little bit ahead of me. If we're on the sidewalk and I'm on the right, closest to the street, he will move me and go to the right. The first time he did that, I'm like, why are you doing that? This is ridiculous. He's like, if a car comes, I want it to hit me, not you.
Woo!
And he will always do that. He's always done that. He opens every door. If I open a door, he gets upset. He's like, don't you touch that door handle. Don't you touch it, Deborah. He just makes me feel safe. I feel loved. And material things are ridiculous. I don't care about material things. And I think deep down, that's what most women want. Because I think with the safety, the respect, the protection, the other things will fall into place. That's my personal opinion. And again, I've been with Edwin since I was 19 years old. I don't know anything else. I don't know anything outside of what we've got. And if I could also add, not to go back, but when you reiterated the fact that the kind of home I came from and the kind of home he came from, when I tell you, I thank him and acknowledge him for the way he's turned out, because really he could have taken the things that were bad and apply them to our relationship, which he did not. So I'm so grateful for that. I say all the time, my mom and my grandma prayed over our relationship and our union. So I do attribute all the prayers to the success of our relationship as well.
Wow, that is so good. And we did talk about that a little bit from the beginning of how you either adopt those behaviors or you learn that this is not what I wanted. That's not love for me. Like, and it's so hard when dysfunction is normal when you're growing up. It's
And
hard
you
to
know
get
what?
away
He
from
made
that.
that decision. He consciously made that decision at the age of 14 that this is not what I want for my wife. I would not physically do this to my wife or verbally or whatever it was. So I applaud him. And, we talk about that even now that we're older, that, wow, you were so wise to have consciously made that decision at such a young age. And I'm so appreciative. I really am. I don't take that for granted at all, because he really could have been a jerk.
Yeah, I mean, we adopt these behaviors. I mean, listen, I'm the most transparent person in the world. I adopted some behaviors from,
Me and
yes,
you,
man.
us both, you and I.
Yeah, we some transparent. We tell it all. Most of it, not all of
Yes.
it, but I did some things that I just saw my mother do, and I just thought that it was dysfunctional, but I just thought it was normal until I got around people who were healthy, and they were like, and I saw some things from my ex-husband who his parents were together until he passed. And he lived in a home with both his parents. They sat down to eat dinner at 6 o'clock. The girls did the dishes with 13 of them. His dad went to work. He took care of everything. His mom didn't even drive. So one day, and I tell a story, one day we were having our children's party. My oldest son, we would have these big parties for him. And, everybody's drinking. My family would drink. My family are drinkers. Let me say that. I've really slowed down a lot. But everybody was drinking. My mom was drinking. We were getting, and his mom wasn't drinking, and I found that quite strange. I'm just like, your mother not gonna drink now? He's like, my mom don't really drink. I haven't really ever seen her drink. So he said every now and then I think she may have had a glass of wine, and for me, that was strange, but it
Right.
really wasn't, because I had been around people being drunk that I'm looking at him like, well, what's wrong with your mother? Like,
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
what's wrong with it? Somebody get her a drink.
Yeah.
Like, no, she good. So
Right.
Almost like
different
it's
ranges.
impossible to have a good time without a
drink.
beverage.
Yeah.
Right. That's why I was just like, your mother. I was like, okay, but anyway, let's get over here and party. So
Yeah.
Edwin, tell us what do men need?
Men want to know that they are appreciated, that they are loved. And honestly, those are the most important things, right? Because it's our job to take care of the family and the wife, those types of things. But we want to be respected and appreciated. That's basically it. Not that we have to be told all of the time, right? Because Debbie doesn't have to tell me every day how much she loves me and or appreciates me, but I know that she does, right? And she does act in such a way. Over the years, she has said it plenty of times. But that's what men want from their wives or their significant others, is that they're appreciated, because we do work hard. Most men,
Caveat.
we work hard. We work hard at our jobs. We work hard at providing. We work hard at loving, and and it's not always that the men are shown that appreciation, right? Unless they own a dog, right? Because dogs are always happy when you get home, no matter how you treat them. But nonetheless, that's basically it. Trey, is we want to know that our efforts are being appreciated.
And that appreciation can be shown in so many ways. It doesn't just have to be verbal. It can be in an action. It can be something small as making his favorite meals. Like, just like he made it a point to not bring bad habits to the relationship. You know what I made it a point to do was to learn how to cook all of his favorite dishes. So while we dated, I hung with his mom almost every day, and because he loved his mom cooking, and I made sure I learned how to do those things. So now he appreciates when I make one of his favorite meals or whatever. So appreciation can be shown in so many ways. And I think learning the love language, the 5 love languages, figuring out what your spouse's love language is important. I learned, it's been about 10 years for sure, affirmation is his. He wants to be told, thank you, you did a good job, or whatever, but he wants verbal affirmation, where mine is time, quality time. So I think it's important to know what that looks like.
And so many people love people from their love language. So many people, if I like gifts, I'm going to give my husband gifts. And my husband is like, I don't care about the car
Right,
that you bought
right.
me. And I'm thinking, why is he acting crazy? I just bought him a Maserati. And he's
Right.
like,
I just
I'm
wanted you to
trying
say
to,
I love you. Right.
right. So thank you, Edwin, for that. Women who are listening right now, men want to be loved and appreciated. They are
They
human
really are
beings.
so simple. They're simple beings. They really are. And I'm not saying that to be insulting or degrading. They
Right.
don't require much. I mean, even my
Right.
sons are like that. My sons are just loving, simple. I don't know. And that could have, being part of how we raise them and
Right.
show them love. And
Right.
it's
So that's
more
what they
about
need.
time and with each other, not about things.
I love this so much. If you just tuned in, you're tuned in to Love Lessons, and our instructors, Edwin and Debbie, are really giving some great direction. They really are speaking from their experiences and their gifts and their talents. They work together, they play together, and they love it. They don't want time apart. And if that's you and somebody in your, because families, right? And we'll talk a little bit about families, and then let you guys do your final thoughts, because families can make you feel some kind of way when you are with your spouse all the time, like, oh, you never do this or you never do that. I just want the people to know that if you desire to be with your partner all the time, your husband, it's okay. Don't worry about what nobody says. So let's talk about blended families, and I'm not talking about stepchildren or any of that. I'm talking about blending families. Like when you came together as a family, how did you guys make that transition into from being single to being married to balancing your own family, because you become a family when you get married, but then you have outside family. So how did you guys navigate through that?
I'll start.
Right.
So again, I'm originally from Jamaica. Edwin's background is Puerto Rican. Outside of the food, which we eat the same things, they're just prepared differently. Our culture was very different in the sense that, so earlier we spoke about how differently we were raised. My parents never said, I love you. Now, I know my parents loved me and I know they loved each other. It was more of a show you kind of thing. Never, ever verbalized it. Where Edwin, they would say, I love you 8 million times a day. And it used to drive me crazy. Like I hated it. One time we bumped into his mom at the mall, literally about 10 times. And every time, okay, I'll see you later. I love you. And I'm like, you just saw her 5 seconds ago, friend. Why are you saying that? Anyway, so, when we were dating, he spent a lot of time with me, and there was some resentment from his side of the family as to how much time he spent with me. There were some struggles. There were some family going back and forth. But you know what? It's been 30 years and we're now at the point where we just don't care. We don't care. If you're bothered that I'm with him, that's too bad. I married your son. I'm going to need you to get over it. And my family with him does not feel that way. Now, am I wrong? Would you agree? Like, and it's not just family, it's whomever. Like, we're just at the point in our life that we're going to do what we want to do when we want to do it and with whom we want to do it. And if you don't like it or you're not in agreement, that's on you. How can you can't control two people that's been together for 30 years. You're either going to accept it or you're not. And if you haven't by this point, well, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. So, one of the things that we did early on is, obviously we spent time in each other's homes, right? So obviously Debbie was still living with her parents until she graduated from college. But, we made sure holidays, we were at, made time for both families. So I spent time with Debbie's family. She spent time with my family. So, we just did our best. And then again, coming from, on my side, at least, kind of larger and or split families, right? Because my dad had a family, my mom had another family, and of course Debbie had her family. So obviously there are always going to be challenges, but number one, if you've got to put your spouse ahead of everyone else.
Always.
Always. Yeah.
Always.
So, that's really the key.
And if I can add, I don't want to end this with anyone thinking, oh, well, she doesn't get along with his family or vice versa. That's not what I'm saying. But I will say I made a lot of sacrifices early on and tried to appease everybody, and it was never enough. Never enough. It didn't matter what I did, how much time I spent creating events, how much money I spent. It was never enough. So that's why I'm to the point now, and he is too, actually, that, you know what? It just doesn't matter. It does not matter. At the end of the day, it's he and I. We lay together. Nobody else. No one else is paying our bills. And we can't allow how they feel or an outside influence to mess up what we've got going. So again, you're either going to accept what we've got going and any decisions we make going forward, whether we want to attend something or we don't, that's on you. It's not on us, because at the end of the day, we're going to do what makes Edwin and Debbie happy, period. Nobody else sleeps in that bed but he and I.
Well, I'm speechless, and it's hard for me to be speechless because I talk all the time. But drop the mic, Miss Debbie, honey, because listen here, somebody needed to hear that. There are so many couples who are struggling right early on, and I'm glad that you discovered this now to appease, and you made a point for the people who are listening right now who are in 1 year, 5 years, 7 years, whatever, how many years you're in. Don't wait for 10, because you're never going to be able to do enough. And Edwin dropped the mic and said, my wife come first. My family come first. And after that, whatever time I have for you or however else we want to work that thing out. Right. And Debbie said, always put your spouse first. Not always. Sometimes, not maybe, always put your spouse first. So if anybody is telling you anything different, my instructors tonight have taught, teached, and preached. And I know teached ain't a word, but y'all are killing it. So now we have 9 minutes left. So let me just ask this. I want you to tell the single people, married people, those who desire to be married, and especially those who are about to walk down the aisle. I want you to give them your best advice.
God first. Mm-hmm. Then your spouse, then your children, then everybody else. In that order. In that order. You asked a question earlier about how, having conversations with other people. I always take my issues to God. Always. That's primary. We pray for each other. We pray over each other. When he's asleep, I pray over him. He doesn't know that I'm praying over him, but I do. When you get married, it's 3 chords. It's the Holy Spirit, you and your spouse. And when you braid it, it becomes one. And if you just trust that process, along with the communication, the respect, and the trust, that's a recipe for a successful marriage, I think, in my humble opinion. Lovey?
Amen. So, obviously it's hard to follow that one, but, certainly, you want to put God at the forefront of your marriage, number one. But, I would say just especially to the men out there, do your best to be a good listener, right? And obviously a good communicator. If you're not comfortable communicating, get out of your comfort zone, because it's going to make life easier much faster. That was kind of my struggles early on, is communication. So I just can't say it enough especially the gentlemen out there, is communicate. And if there are women out there who don't communicate well, find a way to communicate with your man. My job, and again, my role is to make sure that my wife is feeling protected, that she's happy. And that's my number one goal over anything else and anything that I do, because above even, my satisfaction or my pleasure is making sure my wife is happy. And if you make your wife happy, gentlemen, and make that your number one mission, you will be happy. I promise you. because if you put yourself above your wife and your happiness above your wife's happiness, your marriage is not going to last. So be sure to put your wife first in everything that you do, and above your family, as you guys are blending your families, as we talked about here. Make sure your wife comes first, or your spouse comes first. Make sure you get your money right, because that's important. Obviously, early on, we know the biggest cause of divorce is finances. So, make sure you're on the same page. You've got the same goals long term. And again, guys, make sure, from a financial standpoint, you put your wife first. Make sure that, she's okay and comfortable and happy and safe and all of those good things. And again, it is hard work, right? Especially early on, because you're just getting to know one another. But put in the work. That's the most important thing. Put in the work.
And don't fall into this, with toddlers. Oh, it's a terrible twos. It's a terrible this. Well, with the marriage, it's the 7-year itch. It's the 10-year. We didn't have any of that. Don't fall into these stereotypes of what marriages should be, especially nowadays, because everything is just so different. But again, I think if you keep it in the order in which I mentioned, prayer, then your spouse, then your children, and then everybody else, I honestly think it will all fall into place.
My God, this has been so rich. This has been so rich. I mean, if y'all don't have y'all pen and paper, I'll go back and watch the replay, because our instructors, the Martinez, have killed the game tonight. They have dropped the mic on us. They have given us some really, really great instruction. And everything doesn't work for everybody, but take the meat and leave the bones. Take what you can use. Take what has helped you, right? To maintain, sustain, and remain in a healthy relationship. If you have become the FBI and the CIA, like Debbie said, without trust, there is nothing. So where can everybody find your book? And where can everybody find you guys?
Book still on Amazon. Again, it's called Loving Through Thick and Thin. Gosh, I got to get used to this. Loving Through Thick and Thin. And like Trey, very transparent, spoke about everything from losing it all to getting it all back, to surviving a miscarriage, to financial issues, to our sex life. It's worth a read. And if you've watched this, the way I'm speaking and conveying to you, I promise when you read the book, it'll be as if we're having a conversation, because it's super conversational and open and honest.
Love it. Are you guys on social media? Can they follow, friend, and like you?
Yes. For me, for those of you that don't know, I'm also an actress, and I go by, my stage name is Deborah Fox. That's DebraFoxx. On some things, and on Twitter, I'm still Deborah Fox, Debbie Martinez on Facebook, not on Instagram. I do try to have been trying to limit my social media engagement for many reasons. It's just too much. Some of it is I don't have time. And my thinking is, if I have time to spend so much time on social media, I could be reading a scripture or two. So I'd much rather do that. And not to get all holier than thou. That is not what I'm saying.
Please get holier than thou, honey, please. But some folks need Jesus.
Yeah, but Debbie Martinez or Deborah Fox. You can find me either way.
And for me on all sites, it's Edwin Advisor, Advisor, Edwin Advisor on all social media channels.
And I would love to continue this talk with other women. I love nothing more than encouraging and or supporting and or sharing ideas or thoughts about relationships, because I think it's fair to say I have a pretty successful one.
Amen.
Yes, you do, ma'am. And I will have you back. I will have both of you back, because we're going to do this again. I mean, I think I'm going to have a reunion of all the couples once I get to a certain amount. And we're just going to do a big Zoom powwow, because I think it is so important that God loves marriage. God loves relationship, and he wants us to help people to grow in their marriages, to help marriages heal, to save marriages, because this world we live in right now is upside down, and we are here to turn it right side up by giving out great information and nourishing content. And if you don't know, I have a network called the New You Nation Network. Go subscribe to it. It is content that nurtures you for Generation X and beyond. I want to thank Debbie and Edwin for being
Hold on,
here
before you go,
tonight.
I just want to say you need to take it to the stage. Is where you need to take it to.
Oh, when am I taking it to the stage, girl? Come on. We about to have a private conversation after this, because you know what? Let me tell you, honey, you just tell me which direction you see this going in, and I'm following your direction, because if they don't know, listen, I know Deborah Fox. I didn't want to bring it up, but since she brought it up, if you know, then you know, because she ain't, listen, she did some things in her life, and I'm proud of her. And I'm just all the way across the board. She's an amazing woman. And now we see, they said behind every good man, there's a good woman. Behind every good woman is a strong man. So now I see the support that you have, the love that you have. And I just want other women to have hope. Like you guys have given us hope tonight. And that's all I want to do. I just want to replenish the hope in those who have been hurt, and those who, like you said earlier, who are not putting their finances together because of something that happened in a previous relationship. I want us to be able to go into a new relationship with a clean slate to say, this can happen for me. If it happened for Debbie, if it happened for Edwin, it can happen for T. So
That's
I'm
right.
just expecting the Lord to shower down his blessing on me soon. So I thank you guys again. And if you are not following Debbie and Edwin, please do follow, friend, and like. Please go buy Debbie's book. It has some wonderful, wonderful things in it. It will help you maintain, remain, and sustain your marriage. And that's all we want. So thank you for tuning into Love Lessons. Remember, happy spouse, happy house. We'll see you next time. Peace and blessings.